Hello and welcome, bookworms. Welcome to this week's episode of The Consented Narrative. I'm looking at Don Winslow, City on Fire. Now, I read another Don Winslow book. It was called The Force, and I was not a fan of it. Couldn't stand it. I think I gave it like 1 or 2 stars. It wasn't my cup of tea. So Michael bought City on Fire and was like, no, it's a completely different kind of story. You'll really enjoy it. But I put off reading it for quite some time because I was kind of scarred from reading The Force, and I didn't want to push myself for another book. And I hate to admit it, but he was right, and I did enjoy it. And he has just gone out and bought the second one in the series as well, City of Dreams. So I will probably be reading that one soon and let you know my thoughts. But this follows Danny Ryan. So it's kind of like a mafia. Try that again. It's kind of like a mafia story, in the respects that Michael, put my tongue back in. I don't know what's going on today. Danny is part of a crime family. He used to have his own crime family, the Ryan crime family, but then his dad kind of went to drink and ruin, so it got taken over by his friend's family, and so now he feels like as an outcast almost. And it's based around sort of like Troy and, you know, all of that story, because you have this beautiful woman coming out. And she's dating one of the opposing rivals' family men, high up, whatever. And then a slight happens because one of Danny's crew decides to graze her boob and say, it's nothing, it's just a joke. So they see it as a slight, and then this kind of starts a chain reaction, as it were, because then this lovely human being decides to marry, so she breaks up with the other mafia human being and starts dating this the person that grazed her boob, because, you know, he's all dark and mysterious and he's good looking. And then she realizes she's made a mistake, but it's too late, and it all kicks off into war. And I've said this before, sometimes you find the first book in a series, when it's setting things up, it's a lot of character building and a lot of place building and a lot of sort of like, did I really need that information? Like, I'm pretty sure I could have done without it. You know, 17 chapters on why the Ryans are called the Ryans, but this wasn't like this. And I liked how we were following them and we were having a look. You know, Danny was going, right, how can I come out of this unscathed? And he was like, how do I look after my friends and my assets and my wife, and come out of this alive, essentially, because the family we're about to go up against has more guns, more manpower, and more support from the surrounding boroughs. And I mean, I love a good mafia film. I love Goodfellas. I love Godfather. You know, I love a good mafia film, and I sometimes find that reading about the mafia, because I loved the film Godfather, but I couldn't get into the book. But I really enjoyed this, and I really got into it, and I felt like, because he wasn't the Don, and because he wasn't scheming to be the Don, and he was just trying to be like, how can I, and like when he started putting things in place, we're like, right, okay, I've seen what they've done here. They've pissed this guy off. If I can get this guy to back us, or even to just back out, we're going to be absolutely fine. We're going to start outgunning them. And then the real heads were like, oh no, we've put a car bomb in. And you're like, why? So I thought it was really interesting, and I wanted to read more. So because it is part of a series, it is not going to conclude in the first book. I'm telling you that now. I know that some books, when you're reading it, you can read them as standalones, like the Agatha Raisins. There's so many of those. I have quite a few. I love the Agatha Raisins. They're just simple literature. But you will need to read these in order. You can't start with a later one. You will need to read the first one and then the second one, and it won't conclude in the first one. So if you're not looking to start a book series now, I would probably say don't read City on Fire, because although it gets a 4 out of 5 from me, because I really did enjoy it, I just think it would have got a 5 out of 5 if it wasn't for the stupidity of men. I know that I can almost hear you guys going, but that's the whole point of the book. I get it. I know. But I also feel like sometimes I'm sat there going, but why? But why? Kind of. And it is the stupidity of men, you know, just saying. But it gets 4 out of 5. And I would say, you know, if you want to start a book series, absolutely go for it. If you're not wanting to start a book series, maybe shelve it, put it on your to read pile, and pick up with it a few years down the line when you've got a bit more time. But if you've got any book recommendations for me, if you've got any kind of ideas of what you'd like me to read next, as I said, I do have a lot on my to read pile, ones that I've bought and ones that I haven't bought. But I will try and get to it as quickly as possible. But thank you so much for your continued support. And remember to always keep it contento.